Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey with Clarita, the podcast where we will discuss valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Subscribe now to Begin, Build, Blossom, and let's embark on your business journey. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Begin, Build, Blossom. And today we are here with Neel Panji. He is our show's producer. He has been amazing. Neel is a mechanical engineer who left his corporate job at a multinational corporation to build a podcast production company. He has been successfully doing it for the past 1 year. And he's also done it, he did it 3 years part-time before going into full-time. Neel, welcome to our podcast.
Hey, thank you, Clarita, for having me on this podcast. Super excited. And let me give disclaimer that this is the first time I'm being a guest on a podcast. So please forgive me for my rumblings.
Oh, well, I'm very, very happy to have you. We've been working so much behind the scenes.
Right.
So it is I'm very happy to have you on the podcast with me. So welcome once again.
Thank you so much.
All right. So as you know, we're going to start with a segment we call Rapid Fire. I will go ahead and ask you some questions and we will try to get some quick responses. However, if you feel the need to expound on anything, please feel free to do so. So let's get started. I'm looking for 2 words from you, one that describes you now and one that described you as a child.
One that describes me as a child, extremely naughty. And with something which describes me right now is growth oriented.
Okay, I like that. I really like that. And what is the name of your business?
Well, my business name is PodLeaf Productions. A side story behind its name, or we can continue that later.
No, I want to hear it. Let's hear it right now.
So, PodLeaf, just break it into 2 words, pod and leaf. Pod is for the podcast and leaf is for leap of faith. So the first 2 letters of leap and F is the faith. So that's why leaf.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I really love that. Can you put any more context to that? Like when you say leap of faith?
Because I left a corporate job, right, which had a pretty well-defined career path. You know which position you would be in 20 years. You know how it would go. And this is something which I don't know at all what would happen. So that's just a leap of faith from a stable journey to a roller coaster.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. And how has it been for you?
It's been pretty good. And it has been exceptional after meeting you, obviously, and working on this podcast.
Oh, wow. I think that's the biggest smile I've had in a long time. Thanks for saying that. And in the intro, we said you're full-time. So can you tell us a little bit more about when you were part-time and what made you transition into full-time?
When I started this, it was voluntary basis, not even part-time. So I didn't earn anything out of it. I was just getting to learn the ropes of what podcast production is and the services. And then slowly I started getting a few clients from Facebook groups and other places. That time I didn't have that much of income, which I was getting through my salary. So I didn't take the leap. But there came a point when I had the income which I was getting from my salary. So I thought, let's try it out full time. Maybe I can earn more. So that's why the leap of faith. And that's how 1 year ago I did that.
Great. Nice. Well, I, for one, am very thankful that you took that leap because you helped me. I had been sitting on this idea for a very long time. I had reached out to some other people, but they were not as professional and responsive as you. So when I met you, we just went full throttle and here we are. So I am very, very grateful.
Thank you.
And in terms of what you did before you started the business, we said that you were a mechanical engineer. What kind of skills would you say carries over from that role to what you do now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the main skills which carried over were the project management skills, because as a mechanical engineer, I was working with a multinational company in their project management team. I was responsible for building a oil and gas refinery, and I was in the project management team of theirs. So we had to deal with a lot of other people, stakeholders, client, suppliers, and many other things. And decide on all the things and strategize of how to maintain all the deadlines, how to manage people and other stuff. So those are the skills which have been taken forward into my business now, as I manage different clients, manage different deadlines, and also subcontractors whom I'm slowly starting to give work. So all those things have been transferred from my corporate life to
Yeah.
my business life.
Okay. And you have been so patient with me because since I started this podcast, I mean, I had a lot going on in my life. So
Right.
things didn't go as smoothly as I would have hoped. But you were very patient, very professional. You actually guided me through. And look at us today on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. So we're going to move on now to the other segment we call the begin segment. So, can you tell me the first time you thought about starting your own business?
It's pretty fresh in my mind. I would say it's 12 months and 15 days passed by the day I decided that I need to leave my job. So I had a 3-month notice period. So I had decided that I leave my job 15th of January, actually. Right. So that's the day I put in my papers and thought I'll just go in, because that was the time when I realized that I have been able to make enough money to, get my salary out of my part-time work, which I've been doing with the podcast production thing. So yeah, the first thought obviously were, how am I gonna do that? Honestly, I had the age factor in my favor, because I'm a young guy, just graduated, did 2 years of job, and had the risk-taking capability, and have parents who are supportive, who have financial independence, who can survive on their own money. I do not have any liabilities. So I thought, okay, I'll just goof around and try to learn something. So yeah, it was pretty difficult and nervous. Like, I had literally 3 to 4 nights where I was thinking, what should I do? How should I do it? Would this pay off? If it doesn't pay off, what is next? But then I decided, okay, I can take the risk of 1 year of my life and see how it goes. If it doesn't go well,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I can do some extra studies, or maybe change my field by going for a course in a college or something like that, and then come back into corporate world. So that's how this decision happened. And so here we are after 13 months, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know how many people would remember the date like you do. So that's very
Yeah.
impressive. That means that was quite a decision for you. And on your LinkedIn, I see that you said you manifested something a year ago. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
So what happened is that as I started working into this industry and started to see other production houses or services and companies and all, they used to produce podcasts under their brand label or under their name from scratch. Like, they used to help the clients from zero, who do not have any idea, structure their ideas, help them set up the equipment, help them set up their accounts, and then produce a full-fledged podcast. Till then, back then, I was only doing the editing work of the podcast. I wanted to do something like that. Like, I should own the whole thing, right? From zero, from getting somebody to, help them with their idea, bring that into life, to structure it, and actually have somebody's podcast out and helping them throughout the journey. So that's something I really wanted to do. And that's what I manifested like 1 year ago. And I was like, I need somebody, one person, please, who believes in me, that let's do this thing. And that's you, Clarita. So I'm so thankful to you for that, for giving me that chance. Like, I had done some portions of all these things with different clients, but none of the clients was people with whom I had seen the whole journey, which I have seen with you, right? So that's the manifestation I had done around
I'm
1 year
very
ago.
flattered and nice. And the experience has been amazing. So I know you will have a lot more people that you will be doing that with.
Yeah.
I remember part of me, after I reached out to you, I also reached out to persons you had worked with in the past, and
Right.
they spoke very highly of you.
Right.
So it was a no-brainer to actually hire you. And I am so glad that I did. So I am singing your praises to everybody now
Right.
because
Thank you so much.
a lot of my friends,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of my friends had been hearing me talk about, oh, I want to have a podcast, but they're like, okay, so when are you gonna have the podcast? But
Right.
there was a lot of work being done in the background,
Mm-hmm.
even before I met you. But after I met you, I mean, it really took off. And the way, I mean, I had some ideas written down. You went through that with me, and we worked through the name of the podcast. We did
Right.
everything together. And I really felt like I had a partner in this. And I think
Right.
that makes a huge difference. So thank you very much. So tell us about your upbringing and how that led to your current journey.
I have been brought up in India. I'm based in India. So just to let the audience know that I'm based in India, and I've been brought up in one single place for maybe I spent 20 years of my life in that one single place. That is a corporate township or a residency which a multinational company has set up for their employees, right? So my father works in a multinational company, and we lived in the employee quarters of that multinational company since 20 years. And right now I'm recording this podcast out of that same house in the employee quarters with my parents living in another room. So that's how my upbringing has been. I've seen my father working for the multinational companies and climbing the corporate ladder, but seeing that, I felt that maybe something is missing. I need to do something of my own, probably, or take that leap, because nobody in my family has taken that leap to start their own or do something like that. And yes, social media these days has a lot of influence. So I used to see people writing on LinkedIn and everywhere that I started this, I started that, and stuff like that. So maybe that was there in the background of in the back of my mind. And the story actually of starting up actually came out because of pandemic. Like, if the pandemic didn't happen, then this PodLeaf production wouldn't be there. So pandemic and my upbringing in an employee township, I would say, are the two reasons why I started up or set up a company.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what steps did you take to actually start your business?
Well, I didn't take any concrete steps, I'll be very honest. So the journey started actually on LinkedIn. Somewhere I stumbled upon a guy who said that they have a podcast and they did like to have volunteers who can help with editing and post production work and stuff like that. I was pretty free. I thought, like, what will I do sitting in the home? So I just tried out with them. So that guy taught me basic stuff of what is podcast production and editing, and that got me interested. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. Let me get into the details of how this works and stuff like that. So I joined different Facebook groups, because podcasting is, as a community, is more popular on Facebook. So I learned from other people doing podcasting there, production work there, and stuff like that. And that's how I slowly got into it and started. Like, no concrete steps, it totally happened randomly, but that randomness led us to here.
Nice. And based on what you said, I picked up on volunteering and Facebook groups.
Right.
And I think one of the things we sometimes underestimate is what can come out of volunteering.
Right.
I mean, I've done a lot of volunteering in the past, and that has helped me with networking. It has helped me to learn before I'm able to say, like, I can do this professionally. So I'm so happy that you mentioned that. And when it comes to the Facebook group, I actually think that's where I heard of you the first time. I had tried with two other persons that didn't work out, and then I think I put a post. I can't remember which group it was, but somebody in there recommended you. And that's when I reached out, and then I did my due diligence.
Right.
And we have been working together. So those things, there's a lot of value to that. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. After this incident, I strongly believe in volunteering to learn something, so that you come to know about the market or about the opportunities that volunteering activity can get you in terms of monetary value, not just the learnings, but in terms of monetary value as well.
Right. Can you tell us how you got your very first client?
So, as I mentioned, that I was volunteering with the team with whom I volunteered till now. So that's been almost 3 years now. It's out of respect, I would say, and the first people who taught me this thing. So I'm just like, I need to pay back. So that's how it is. So I was just searching on Facebook and other places where people hang out who do podcasting. So I got to know that Facebook is the place where there are lots of groups and communities where podcasters come together and discuss stuff, and places like that. I believe my first client came from a similar podcast group where I saw a post by that client that I want something who can edit podcast for me.
Right.
So I was pretty intrigued. I thought, I know the basics, I can help. I was pretty nervous on that day when I was messaging the client, because I haven't done anything that similar to that for anybody on paid basis, right? Because in volunteering, you do not have that much pressure or to perform or to give quality
Right.
work and stuff like that. When the money is getting involved, you need to deliver as well, right? Because your
Right.
name is at stake now. So that was the first podcast production client. Before that, I'll also mention that, I mean, my first ever client was not a podcast production thing. My first client was a translation thing. If you know, podcasts also have people who want them translated into, text format so that people can read.
Okay.
Right? There are different
Right.
tools people use to just get the audio into text format. And I
Right.
was supposed to do that for somebody. And that's how I got the first work which I did, which was somehow related to podcast. So
Wow.
that's a different thing that I'm not doing that anymore, but that was the first thing I did. And then slowly I saw another post where they wanted literally a podcast production person who can edit their podcast and also do the translation thing. So I was like,
Right.
okay, let's add on to the services now and would have fun.
Yeah, I like how I could see the progression, because sometimes when we get into business, we have the expectation of doing exactly what we want right away.
Right.
But there is something to say about doing, like, starting somewhere.
Right.
And then people learn to trust you. You get better, and then you slowly get to where you want to be.
Right. Exactly. That's what happened with me as well.
And we are now going to the build section of the episode. So I know one of the biggest leaps you've had to take was actually starting the business. But since you started, is there any big leap that you've taken since?
You mean after going full time, or?
Right. Maybe even in terms of actually building your current production company.
Right. The biggest leap, I would say, after I went full time is starting to trust other people to do my job, especially in this podcast production, because quality is the thing which matters the most. And not everybody or every person you are trying to work with understands that quality levels. I mean, you need to train them. You can't just be like expecting that they know everything, they understand your quality criteria and they'll do the job. So that's the biggest leap of faith I took, which I was avoiding for maybe 5-6 months, I would say. And finally, I decided that I'll give it to somebody who can be trained, who can work along with me. So that's the biggest leap of faith I took after going full time.
Okay. And how is that working for you?
Well, that is working pretty well for me because of two reasons. One is that the person with whom I'm working is one of my friends whom I have known for some time. So that makes it very easy for communication. And secondly, the person is pretty much ready to learn anything and everything, however I teach them. Irrespective of, some people have that tendency to get their own knowledge in between, or trying to not learn by showing that I know this, I know that, and I don't want to work in a way which you are telling me to do. Right. So I have been fortunate that this person, I know them since maybe past 5-6 years.
Right.
And I mean, they were interested in doing that and they were pretty open-minded about it.
Okay, that's great. And in terms of networking, what ways do you network?
So my networking has been primarily through Facebook groups. That's where I started. Next, my networking has been through LinkedIn, because I have a habit of writing LinkedIn posts almost every day. So sometimes people react on that, comment on that, and we connect. And the third has been via the emails. Cold emails is the thing which I do. So that's the three things I have been using to network, or rather sell myself, I would say.
Right. And I must say, I love those emails. Sometimes you send emails just sharing something new that has come out. Right. So I think those are very valuable. So keep them coming.
Yeah, sure.
And how do you handle the business side of things, like accounting and actually running the business, not outside of the actual, production of podcasting?
Right.
Maybe the admin and finances, I would say.
So those two, I would be honest that those two are my weaknesses as of now, because I have no clue how much money I'm spending on what type of subscriptions for my business, which I need to get together. Because in podcast production also, you have some different types of subscriptions which you use to keep things running smoothly, right? And you also need to continuously try to add on to different subscriptions to see if they can help you with improving your workflow or making your life easier in simple terms. So you need to keep trying that. And since the AI boom and other stuff, there are many tools and subscription models which you can subscribe to just check it out, or see if that helps you. right? So because of those, getting back to the question, because of those, my finances are terrible, I would say. I do my accounting and financing thing at the end of the year when I have to file my taxes, and I just have a copy of invoices which I have sent out or the subcontractor has sent me in. No other fancy tool, nothing I do have right now, and which has
Uh,
worked fairly because the client base was smaller and things were pretty simple back then.
mhm.
But now slowly I need to systemize that as well. I'm trying to work on that, and yes, the admin part is a big headache kind of a thing, I would say, because again I do not have a system back on that. It's more like all of those things are in my brain. I remember which client said what, which client emailed me today, which client's deadline is when, right? So that works for 5 to 6 clients. But once you start growing, or if you have a team or something like that, it's very difficult to manage that. So I'm trying to build a system around it. So that's where my life or my business life is compared to when you consider admin and finance work.
Mm. So I'm sitting here thinking, and he's here talking to an accountant. Right. I would take this opportunity to actually say from my experience, that is something I've observed quite a bit where business owners want to get into business to do what they're passionate about. They're not trying to become an accountant. So they typically either ignore it or, they just kind of put it aside. So that's where
Right,
persons like myself come in, and we help persons to get back on top of things and take that away from them so that they can go back focusing on what they love to do. And even me as an accountant, sometimes I don't even enjoy the admin part of things. I love the accounting part, but the admin part can be very stressful. But as an accountant, I am very how you call that? Not a perfectionist, but I like to be on top of things, so that helps me keep on top
right.
of admin. But I
Hmm.
totally understand where you're coming from.
What advice would you give as an accountant to somebody who's starting a business? Basics which you should think about first.
Thank you for asking that question. I think before you start a business, it's important to think the business side of it, in the sense that, okay, you're following your passion, but business is business. You have to know where you stand when it comes to your finances.
Right.
And you don't need to know that yourself, but you
Hmm.
can bring in somebody to help you. So I think it's good to reach out to an accountant. A lot of accountants will give you free time with them to
Hmm.
just,
Right.
brainstorm a little bit. So what I would advise somebody to do is make sure they keep their receipts, make sure they put certain things in place. And I would think some kind of organization. It
Right.
might sound simple, but that is very important. Have a folder on your desk where you put all your
Right.
receipts. Even something simple like that will make your accountant very happy with you, because that's the very basic information, and there's not much you can do without all those basic information like receipts. I actually have a client where we started off with going to grab a whole container of receipts, and my job, like receipts for at least maybe 2 to 3 years, and my
Okay.
job was to go through all those receipts, organize them, and
Hmm.
actually make them readable in the sense that put them into a format that you can actually see what your numbers are. Because for him, he was happy doing his work. He did not want to be bothered one bit with the finance part of it. But I don't think let me take that back. It's not that he didn't want to be bothered. It's just a lot of work. And then to go to work and then come back and have to deal with that when that is not something you enjoy. I it's not something people really want to do. So that's where somebody like myself comes in, and I take so much pleasure in it. I will come and get all your receipts, and I will hand you your profit and loss account. We will work QuickBooks, getting your invoices in the system, and making your life so much easier than you could imagine.
Right.
And you will be so much happier just doing what you love while somebody else takes care of your books. So, in terms of struggles that you have encountered in your business, so I know managing the finances and the admin is one,
Right.
but and we will talk about that to see how if I can give you any more advice. But is there one time where you really felt like you were ready to give up?
Not really, but yeah, there were times when my expectations with respect to income were not being met. Like I had a few rough months
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the end of 2023, I would say, where the income was not something which was satisfactory for me. And obviously, it's a business, right? You have good months, you have bad months. So
Right.
that was a time that things were pretty stagnant, and I was really reconsidering that what should be done next,
Right.
right? So that was a time. I won't say it was a time that I wanted to give it up, but yeah, my mind was racing that what should be done next. Should this be
Right.
increased, or should I do something else to bring in more income or other stuff?
Right. And what made you change? So what was your decision?
Well, I stuck around. I thought maybe things would change, and just trusted my process, which was cold emailing people and
Mm-hmm.
connecting on LinkedIn and Facebook, and grabbing
Mm-hmm.
each and every opportunity which I got on LinkedIn and Facebook specifically, where people, put in post mentioning that I need a podcast editor or podcast production support or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept messaging those people, getting on calls with them, and yeah, one or two just clicked, and things started moving again. So that's how it is. Just need to trust that process, and you need to have a good pipeline of people who are willing to talk to you about your services and might buy from you. If you don't have that, then it is very difficult for you to keep trusting your process or have faith in your business, because that's the lifeline of the business, right? If you need clients or people who would be willing to buy from you or want your service.
Right. Right. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that with us. And what would you say is your biggest motivator?
Well, biggest motivator for me, I'll be honest, when I started, it was money. But now it is more like how many more people can I employ, or can I help them with their, financial needs. So that is one of the biggest motivators right now. Obviously, money is there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be not like I'm a saint or somebody who doesn't want money. Obviously, we all want money. But
Right.
yeah, but apart from money, this is one of the biggest motivators. That is to see how many people I can help financially by getting them on my team or in any
Mm-hmm.
other form which is possible.
So that's definitely one way of giving back. Like
Right,
pulling people up with you as you go. So that's great
right.
that you do that. And what does success mean to you?
I mean, I don't have a fixed or rigid definition, but I would say yes, as many people as I can employ or help them take that leap for themselves as well,
Right.
to start something, or just go out and do what you were thinking to do, like in a normal sane way, not like insanely dropping off your job and randomly going
Right.
out and thinking I'll do this now. Obviously you need
Mm-hmm.
to have some planning and strategy behind it.
Right.
So that's the thing currently which I feel is my success.
Oh, great. And that takes us nicely to our closeout section. And what are some of those things you think that somebody can do? Basically, let's put it this way. What are 2 or 3 actionable tips that you would give someone who is listening to you now and would like to start their own business?
Okay, so the first thing which would help you when things are not going in your way, it's more of the mental thing rather than an action type of thing. When I was not getting clients, especially after cold emailing thousands of people and connecting on Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever it is, I used to tell myself that there would be one person in the whole earth or whole universe that would require your services. You need to just find that one person, right? Every time I was stuck, not able to find any client or something like that, I was like, isn't there one person who needs my services? And
Mm,
that's how I kept pushing me that, yeah, there would be one person. I just need to find that one person who would need my services. So that's a mental thing when you are, kind of stuck with no clients and stuff like that. Now, as far as action is concerned, I would say if you are to a service business just like mine, do as many cold emails as possible. Obviously, after researching the target audience, who the people would benefit from your services, try to do cold emails as many as possible. Try to search on social media platforms. Search as in literally go onto Facebook or Instagram and search whatever services you are giving. For example, what I do is I literally go on Facebook and write looking for podcast editor. because that is a general or most used term which people put in their post when people are trying to hire somebody. They write that looking for a podcast editor or hiring a podcast editor and stuff like that. So Facebook connects me to those posts, and I'm able to just connect to those people. Same thing I do on LinkedIn as well. So these two are the action tips if you want to take to get clients specifically. Second is obviously connect with people, as many people you can, and talk about yourself or your work as much as possible so that people come to know, and accept that fact that people do forget about you. Just imagine, like, I tell you something, or I'm trying to sell something to Clarita right now, and what are the chances that Clarita, you would remember me after a full day's work? If we
Maybe,
had never
maybe
met,
not.
if we had never met, right?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah. It might be slim, depending.
Right. So that's the day we met, right? Now let's assume that after 7 days, if I ask that you met Neel, or Neel had emailed you or messaged you, would you remember? What are the chances?
Yeah, I mean, if you emailed me, I would remember, especially if you remembered something about me and you brought it up in that email
Right.
to, jog my memory and then take it from there.
Right. So this is a very good point you raised, Clarita, that if somebody is emailing you, please try to write something which would attract the reader's attention. Don't just write that, hey, I provide these services. That also works, but only in those cases where the person is literally looking for that service at that moment, and the chances are very slim. Right?
Right.
So be thoughtful about it when you're writing about emails and other stuff. So yeah, those would be my tips or action points which somebody can take, mostly towards how to get clients, because that's the biggest headache for small businesses, I feel.
Right. And you actually did give me some feedback. Part of the service you provided to me was actually helping me put together my processes. And I remember emailing you some of the templates that I would be using.
Right.
And you gave me some really good feedback on, like, if I haven't met a guest before, the way to change the email a little bit. And you've been giving me so much feedback on everything that I ask you about. And even before I ask you, make suggestions. And I have been really using that to help me grow. And now I can say to help me grow as a podcaster. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Super
So
excited for
yeah.
that.
So I really, really value all the advice you just gave us, and I have benefited from some of them. So that's great. Um, so part of what we're doing with the podcast is to create a community of support for other entrepreneurs and aspiring ones and those who have been in business for a while. And one of the ways we're looking to do that is by connecting guests with listeners. So I would like to ask if you would offer up about 30 minutes of your time to speak with someone listening to you right now who probably wants to learn more about podcasting or just business in general. Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
Yes, I would definitely be interested in doing that, because some people supported me when I was a nobody in podcasting, I would say. So yes, I need to give that back, and I'm open to doing that through this
Great.
podcast.
Great. Thank you so much. So the way we will go about doing that is, first of all, you choose how many people you'd like to provide that to, but at least I'm expecting the first person who reaches out to you and say that they heard about you through our podcast.
Right.
You would connect with them and provide them with a way to schedule a call with you. And maybe at this point you can give us the ways that persons can reach you.
So let's do one thing. As many people who want to reach out to me can reach out. I am open to talking to all of those people, not just the first one.
Great.
Right? And how can people reach out to me? People can reach out to me via LinkedIn, which is the most used platform for me. Which is, you can just search on LinkedIn Neel Panji, NEELPANJI. And I am hoping that I'm a unique person by my name, so you should not find anybody else. Or just can write Neel Panji podcast or something like that. You should find me. Right? And my website is podleafproductions.com, PODLEAF productions.com. You can go there and you will find my LinkedIn link as well, and email communication as well. So you can just go to the website, fill in the contact form, and I'll get in touch with you. So these are the two best methods to connect with me. And obviously
great.
You can connect with Clarita, and then she will obviously connect with me.
And I would happily do so.
Right.
So thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I would like to add again, thank you so much for making my dream a reality, for all the work that you put in. And that first call I had with you, from the first call I had with you to now, it's been an absolute pleasure. So I think anybody listening who is looking to start their podcast or who's just thinking about it and just want to kind of see where it can lead, I would say call Neel, because he will give you some good advice and he will be honest, transparent, and he's just such a pleasure to work with. So thank you again, Neel, and I look forward to working with you even more. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Clarita, for all the kind words, and it's a pleasure working with you. Have a great day, all
Say
of you. Bye bye.
bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, a CME Accounting LLC podcast. Please subscribe and be on the lookout for our next episode. If you'd like to share any feedback with us, please email us at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com.